Imagine a man who rose from picking avocados in a dirt-poor village to commanding one of the deadliest cartels on the planet. A ghost who evaded capture for decades, outsmarting armies and governments while flooding the world with drugs and unleashing waves of violence. But on February 22, 2026, just yesterday, it all ended in a blaze of gunfire. This is the story of Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, the kingpin who built an empire on blood and billions, and how it came crashing down. If you're ready for the unfiltered truth about Mexico's most wanted man, stay with me, because this tale is as brutal as it is unbelievable. Welcome to the full story of El Mencho, the head of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel CJNG, one of Mexico's most powerful and violent criminal organizations. Born July 17, 1966, in the rural community of Colotitlan, Aguililla, Michoacan, he wasn't always a cartel boss. He grew up in extreme poverty, one of 5 brothers, helping his family cultivate avocados. By 5th grade, he had dropped out of school to work the fields. At 14, he was already guarding marijuana plantations. Dreaming of something better, he crossed illegally into the United States in the 1980s and settled in California. In 1986, at 19, San Francisco police arrested him for stolen property and carrying a loaded gun. 2 months later, his first child was born. He crossed the border multiple times under different aliases. Investigators believe this is when he first became involved in methamphetamine production and trade in Redwood City, working alongside his brother-in-law Abigail Gonzalez Valencia, known as El Queenie, in 1989, and other arrests this time for selling narcotics. Deported, but he returned. Then in September 1992, federal drug charges in Sacramento. Court records describe him and his brother Abraham at a San Francisco bar called the Imperial, attempting to sell 5 ounces of heroin for $9,500. Abraham handled the deal. El Mencho was the lookout. He spotted the setup. The buyers handed over perfectly stacked bills instead of loose ones. Through a wiretap, police heard him warn his brother, "Never do business with them again, they undercover cops." 3 weeks later, both were arrested. El Mencho insisted he was innocent, but facing a jury trial, he knew his brother with prior felonies could get life in prison. To protect Abraham, he pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 5 years and sent to Big Spring Correctional Center in Texas. After 3 years, he was paroled and deported back to Mexico at age 30. Back in Mexico, he briefly joined local police forces in Ciebio, Corrientes, and Tematlan, Jalisco. But soon he left and went full-time into organized crime with the Milenio Cartel. To strengthen ties, he married Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia, sister of the clan leaders. In the Milenio Cartel, he began as part of the assassin squad protecting boss Armando Valencia Cornelio, alias El Maradona. In 2003, Armando was arrested. Around the same time, Los Zetas, backed by the Gulf Cartel, launched an offensive against the Milenio in Michoacan. The Valencia family fled to Jalisco. El Mencho followed and formed an alliance with Ignacio Nacho Coronel of the Sinaloa Cartel. Under Coronel, he managed drug operations, finances, and murder activities in Colima and Jalisco. Then the dominoes fell. In 2009, Oscar Orlando Neva Valencia alias El Lobo was arrested. In 2010, his brother Juan Carlos alias El Tiger was arrested. 2 months later, Nacho Coronel was killed in a shootout with the Mexican army. The Milenio Cartel fractured. One faction wanted Elpidio Moyaro Ramirez as leader. Another backed El Mencho. When El Mencho demanded the handover of Gerardo Mendoza for killing men loyal to him in Tacoma, Colima, and was refused, war broke out. The cartel split into La Resistencia and Los Matazetas, led by El Mencho. Los Matazetas launched a propaganda campaign denouncing rival extortions. They won the war and rebranded as the Jalisco New Generation Cartel CJNG. As CJNG leader, El Mencho expanded aggressively, corrupting officials and fighting off Los Zetas, Knights Templar, and others. He solidified control in Jalisco, Colima, Guanajuato, Nayarit, Veracruz, and contested Morelos, Guerrero, and Michoacan. Internationally, CJNG built ties across the Americas, Europe, Asia, and Africa, focusing mainly on cocaine and methamphetamine. Government estimates put the cartel's assets at around $50 billion. D-Sources in 2019 placed El Mencho's personal net worth between $500 million and over $1 billion. His rise was fueled by extreme violence. Direct attacks on Mexican security forces earned him the label "principal enemy of the state." The manhunt was relentless. In 2012, a shootout in Tenaya, Jalisco, killed 6 CJNG gunmen. El Mencho escaped after his men set 37 vehicles on fire to block roads. In March 2015, CJNG ambushed federal police in Ocotlan, killing 11. Days later, they killed 15 state police in San Sebastian del Oeste, the deadliest single attack on Mexican police since 2010. On April 6, 2015, during Operation Jalisco, CJNG gunmen shot down a Mexican Army helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade, killing 9 soldiers. They set 39 buses, 11 banks, and 16 gas stations on fire across 20 towns and 3 states to slow the military and help El Mencho escape. Authorities believed he hid in rural Jalisco, Michoacan, Nayarit, and Colima, constantly moving through mountains, guarded by ex-military mercenaries. He lived modestly compared to other kingpins to avoid detection. Criminal charges mounted, as indictments for continuing criminal enterprise, drug trafficking, and firearms. Kingpin Act, sanctions froze assets. Bounties rose. Mexico offered 30 million pesos, the US $15 million by late 2024. During the second Trump presidency, he was designated a specially designated global terrorist in response to the fentanyl crisis and extreme violence. Son, Ruben alias El Menchito, extradited to the U.S. and convicted in 2024 on murder, drug, and firearm charges. Daughter Jessica Johanna sentenced in the U.S. in 2021. Brothers-in-law, son-in-law arrested at various points for financial, logistical, or operational roles. Rumors of poor health surfaced. Kidney disease reported in 2020. He hadn't been seen publicly for years by 2022. Then on February 22, 2026, Mexican Army forces located him in Tapalpa, Jalisco. He was taken into custody during a security operation, but died of injuries suffered in the firefight while being transferred to Mexico City. The death triggered immediate chaos. Clashes erupted across Jalisco. Vehicles were set on fire in multiple states: Jalisco, Guanajuato, Nayarit, Michoacan, Tamaulipas. An active shooter alert was reported at Guadalajara International Airport. The full casualty count remains unknown. El Mencho's story is a brutal reminder of how poverty, ambition, and ruthless violence can forge a criminal empire, and how quickly it can collapse. From avocado fields to global kingpin, he reshaped the drug war in Mexico. With his death at age 59, the question now is whether the CJNG fractures, escalates, or quietly adapts under new leadership. Only time will tell what comes next. Thank you for listening to this deep dive into one of the most notorious figures in modern organized crime. If this story moved you, shocked you, or made you think, let me know your thoughts.